What is Valiant?
It's kind of a wayward home for storytellers.
Valiant is a team effort.
Valiant, to me, is the essence of what comic books should be. Valiant isn't faddish, doesn't follow trends per se, but we try to set, the pace, I think, in terms of what comics are really about. A blend of literature and art, to form a unique medium. I think some people have forgotten that, and it's like I think Valiant is a constant reminder to people, especially people who are serious storytellers, that there's a place where they can come and tell good stories. And practice their craft and improve their craft.
People say, well, Valiant has a house style. Well, it's not really a house style. When you take a look at it, it's a bunch of guys who do more traditional kinds of storytelling. And what I mean by that is that most of these guys are my age or younger, but we all grew up reading Jack Kirby and Stan Lee comics or some Superman and Batman comics that really excited us as kids. And what we've done is we haven't come up with anything new. We haven't come up with a house style. We've gone back to traditional storytelling methods.
Our biggest concentration is on trying to get storytelling back to what it was a few years ago, where the emphasis was on a writer and a penciler working together to come up with a union that made sense, something that is greater than the sum of its parts.
Well, I guess we're doing our best to resist the common trend that you see out there, where the story's kind of pitched by the side, where pages are built just on one cool shot of a character and everything else is sort of secondary. And what we're trying to do is show that you can get by telling a story where the events in it matter, where there's some sort of a progression with the character, and everything isn't the same as it has been for the past 10 years.
Right, definitely a clear, concise storytelling, and also I think our stories are more character driven. We care more about our characters, and that's what drives the stories along. Once you develop the good characters, the stories come rather easily. One
of the things that I often say to my writers is, don't write me a comic book, write me a story. The public's perception of when some uses the term comic book or comic booky is a put down. Comic books in my mind, let's say currently or in recent history, are just really kind of cliche-ridden things. I'm very interested in stories. Stories are people-driven, character-driven. They're not situation-driven. I'm also looking to do what's not typical. I mean, I certainly don't want to alienate any people who like the opera pure. But at the same time, I really want to give them a twist on it. If we're going to write new operas, I want to do something different, not the same old thing.
Solar 33. Is the plot done on that?
No, I'm finishing the plot tonight.
Okay. But we have a cover now, and we have 14 pages of pencils left. That's the Valiant Vision, so that's going to take a while to color. Exo 28, we have 12 pages of pencils left, and 4 pages of script are done. 9 pages of script are done, so we have 12 pages left. How much of that is lettered?
4.
4 are lettered?
Those 9 have not come across my desk, have they?
I turned them in.
Of 28, Exo 28.
We'll double check it.
Because I don't believe I've seen them.
Bloodshot 16 is basically in the same shape.
I'll give him a call today, Jesse.
Tuesdays is our production meeting, which will basically go down the list of all our publications to see which ones are in trouble, which ones are doing fine, what we need to do to improve the schedule, that sort of thing. And we do that. That's really where we take our pulse once a week, and it's probably the most important meeting that we have up there.
When is lettered? Okay.
I doubt that most people know what an editor-in-chief does. What is it that you do?
We don't sleep much. we have a tendency to think about this a lot in terms of what's going on. My job is kind of like to oversee the entire universe. I mean, we right at this current time as we're filming this, we have 15 titles, and 2 more in the works. And I sit with each creative team and try to direct them where I think the universe is going, where they should go with this character, how it relates to what's happening in another book. A lot of times somebody will get stuck story-wise. They'll come to me and it's like, I painted myself into this corner and I don't know what to do there, and I'll sit down and analyze where they're at with it and try to figure out a way to help them get through that. I'm working with young talent, trying to educate them in terms of their craft. You know, I work with the artists, work with the writers, inkers, colorists, whatever, in terms of helping them improve and be storytellers. I think they have a real sense of pride about that, as they can further the story in color, where other companies, their color is really an afterthought that's splashed down by somebody's wife or girlfriend or something like that. You know, and here it's like colors are artists just as important as the penciler or the inker or the writer.
When you're coloring, what you're trying to do is, again, storytelling. Storytelling does come into play with this. You know, you're not as much as a storyteller as a penciler, but you're still involved in the process. And what you're trying to do is first create a mood by the use of color, depending on what you use. It has a strong influence on the mood and atmosphere of the piece.
Comics are a very different medium now than it used to be, say 20 years ago when I started. I was privileged. I was a big fan of Wally Woods, and I was privileged to work with him as an assistant. And then in later times, I got a lot of training and a lot of good, solid professional advice from Dick Giordano, who was a close friend and remains a close friend to this day. And this has always been sort of a family business, in a sense. And in the older days, where it's passed down from generation to generation, the craft itself. And I was very fortunate to be trained by a couple of people that I consider giants. And I was just kind of, it was inculcated into me that you owe it to the business to kind of pass that on. And also I find that there's so much faddish stuff going on in the industry, so many egos that have to be padded, and so many trends that people take off on hoping to click and get their own little audience and things like that, that so many people have lost sight of what this medium is about. And I find that with the younger guys, the ones that are really hungry to learn storytelling, to learn to be good writers or pencilers or inkers or whatever, that if I find them young and I can try to pass on what I've learned to them, that they become very solid professionals, people that are very long-term artists, not a flash in the pan. I think the Valiant artists here are so underrated in the industry, and people are just now starting to get a clue to like how solid these guys are, and that they're seeing that every issue there's an improvement in the quality of their books.
Basically, my role as a penciler is I would receive a story in written form from the writer, and what I would do is flesh it out into images on a page. And what I get basically is a breakdown from the writer that describes roughly what's going on a page. And then my 2 main goals when I'm penciling is to try to keep the storytelling very clear and concise, and meanwhile adding a lot of visual interest by employing a lot of methods that were taught to me and that I know that would make a page look dynamic and interesting.
Well, the main thing is he does all this cool stuff. He makes it look cool. Now that may sound really infantile, but Sean has said to me repeatedly, as long as it looks cool, that's the most important thing. So that is a pretty serious consideration. That is why people buy the comics, after all, because they look cool. He has a really good grasp of three-dimensional space, which is very important for making the viewer feel as though he's really in the story and he knows where he is. So he basically does all that for me, and I concentrate mostly on giving the characters volume, making sure that there's consistency in both the line weight from panel to panel and page to page, and things like the facial features, the resemblances, the costumes, things like that. What to me makes good inking is decisiveness and clarity. when a shape is really clearly defined and the lighting is really emphatically stated, it works well. My concern isn't really so much the storytelling, although the lighting and the kind of line work and the texture employed in the inking can emphasize the mood and do certain things to advance the story. Basically, it's just a question of refinement.
He starts to trip and stumble back here. You have a guard framing the shot here. Another guard picks up his spear, which he's about ready to throw. We've established the guards with spears in one of the earlier panels. He's running towards him. He's closing the distance. And here he's just about to get to him when the spear perhaps pierces him in the left breast. Do you think that's too dramatic?
Might be too graphic. I'm cool with it maybe coming through an arm, but probably not piercing all the way through.
Okay.
Just definitely taking
keep
the blow.
blood more to a minimum. Taking the blow. And
The editor will sit down and map out the direction of the book. He also will make sure that the characters stay on spec, that they look like themselves. To a little extent, he's a traffic cop who's making sure that the stuff's coming in and calling them up when it's not there, and and going through the dog ate my homework syndrome and the whole deal. Bob and I and these guys can't write every book up here, although I've been accused of trying to. And what I think that what we do as editors is try to put the direction down so that we've got this cohesive approach, to doing Valiant Comics and to keeping that style and to keeping whatever it is that defines us as who we are.
Appreciate that.
Incoming!
Oh my God! Coming!
Kevin, save yourself!
Yes, I will.
That's good.
There was two things I always wanted to do when I felt I got to an editorial position. One was create a free comic book and give it away, because I always believed in the mentality that if you have something good and you give it free to someone. So when we did Unity, I mean, one of the real driving things for me was to do a free comic. Because I knew if we had a good product and we got it into people's hands, and that's really the thing that made Valiant take off, I think it was that whole Unity program. And the fact that we put that freebie in the hands of every comic fan in America. The second thing I wanted to do was kind of like throw out the challenge that we can do stories that appeal to a wider audience and not alienate the current audience. I always thought it was a shame, in talking to my female friends, that they had no interest in comics per se, because they really didn't feel like there was anything in comics that appealed to them. And in talking with them, this seemed that relationships and the more emotional side of characters is what appealed to them than the slam bang action and guys, with two flaming motorcycles in each hand leaping over the Empire State Building. And it always one of the things I always said, I know you can do a romantic comedy in comics in this genre and make it work. It's just you have to really think about it.
And that's the driving force behind Mirage.
And that was really the driving force behind Mirage. It's also semi-autobiographical. It's very much about my past experience in relationships. Some romanticized, granted, but some of the issues that have cropped up. I'm constantly being, I wouldn't say chastised, but criticized for kind of pushing the envelope a little bit with the book, doing scenes that walk a real fine line, and I say fine. I think that's necessary, but Mirage is a very personal book to me, and at the same time I feel critically it's been a success. Part of the reason why is, like I said, I'm throwing out the gauntlet to prove that you can do something in the action-adventure genre that isn't, like I said, just slam bang, non-stop action, guys with their legs 10 feet apart. That you can do stuff about relationships and have romance and comedy and drama and pathos, everything there. And I really feel that Mirage is that good roller coaster ride. Plus, I have Bernard Chang. You can't go wrong with the Doctor.
There's no greater compliment I can give a comic book than this gave me the same feeling I had when I was 15 and I was sitting in McDonald's with my Coke, my 2 burgers and fries, and I'm sitting there reading this book, and this was the greatest thing in the world. And Dr. Mirage too, from the color, the feeling of snow to the storytelling and Bernard's way he moved it around, and that really did it for me.
I got into comics because it was a logical next step in my career. It started with the idea of doing a live touring show based on comic book characters. I had a license from another company to do that show, and then it turned out that I saw a real need in the industry, that people were marketing comics like periodicals or marketing like collectibles, but people had stopped marketing comics like entertainment. In fact, it seemed that people had stopped thinking about comics as entertainment. And comics are a wonderful form of entertainment. They're a terrific serialized entertainment medium that's been around for a long time. It's one of the true American art forms. And we're in a position where we have tried to return that. So when I saw the opportunity to switch from managing the Allman Brothers Band or representing Aerosmith to working with comic characters, it was a wonderful transition to make. First of all, Magnus Robot Fighter has never called me at 3:30 in the morning to complain that the truck broke down. Second, no comic fan has ever thrown up on me at a comic book show, although it's happened plenty of times at rock and roll shows. Third, the characters are able to be molded. I can't tell you how many times I did rock and roll shows and manage bands where I would say, this is a terrific idea for you, and they would say, we're just not going to do it. We don't want to. Whereas Magnus has never told me that. Magnus does pretty much what we all want him to do here.
Valiant is I think the different characters that we deal with on a regular monthly basis are very diverse. So I think it would depend upon your tastes. If you have a more eclectic, if you've been reading comics a long time and you have a more eclectic taste, I would absolutely recommend Eternal Warrior or Archer and Armstrong or Shadow Man or maybe Bloodshot, because those books have a strong, more adult kind of following. And by adult, I don't mean that they're PG-13 or that they're R-rated or that there's anything in there that won't, that little kids shouldn't read, but I think that it would appeal to an older audience. Some of the other books, the hardcore, Harbinger, Exo Man of War, absolutely crosses all barriers. Young readers and older readers alike love that book. Solar Man of the Atom is a little more adult, but it's very hard science fiction oriented, even though it's a very fantastic premise. So I would recommend that to a Star Trek fan. Magnus, of course, is pure science fiction and action adventure. So Magnus and Ryan the Future Force would appeal to, again, science fiction readers, I believe. Harbinger, to me, is, I think, one of the key books to the Valiant universe. And the reason for that is because the Harbinger book, the underlying theme of the Harbinger book is Toyo Harada, who was the most powerful man in the universe. He is Valiant's psionic Superman. He can do anything. He has gone out and done, realistically, our approach to him is a realistic approach of if there was a person out there that had those kinds of powers, mental powers, what would he do with those powers? What would be his goals? And that's what Harada is about. So Harada he's had 30 years since the early 50s, 30 or 40 years now, to develop a general program or general plan. And what he wants to do is he wants to be the Moses of his race of Harbingers. He wants to lead his people into the promised land, which is outer space. Now, is that a good goal or is that a bad goal? Good or bad don't even enter into it. This is a lofty goal because he's not even human. He's the first example of Homo superior, and he wants to lead his people into the stars. And the ends justify the means to him. And Toyo Harada's connections within the Valiant universe, on an economic level, on territorial levels, on a power level, on any kind of level you want to measure it, he controls it. He runs it. He operates in it. He is the hidden guy behind just about everything. And so I think a Harbinger book is a very underplayed book in the Valiant universe, but it's very, very important.
Your typical comic won't have Aerosmith in it, but a Valiant comic will. It's kind of a fun thing that when I left working with Aerosmith, I had talked to their manager about doing something where we put Aerosmith in a comic. His first reaction was, oh, you want to do a comic about Aerosmith? I said, no, I want to introduce Aerosmith as a group of characters into the Valiant universe. We've done it before, actually. In Shadow Man #1, we took Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers and put him into there as a character. We didn't name him by name, but he comes over in the bar and talks to Jack Boniface and says, are you going to help us with this new album we're working on? And a few people recognized and knew it was Dickie, but it's just a fun thing to do. When we went and talked about Aerosmith doing it, they wanted to do more than a cameo. They wanted to be involved in the story. They wanted to get, be either victims or heroes or villains. They really wanted to be part of it. And we sat down with Bob Hall, and then Bob Hall sat down with Aerosmith and worked out what I thought was a terrific plot. And that's one of those books that, from what I understand, sold out instantly.
How about some teasers for fans out there about what's coming up in the Valiant universe?
Well, as you know, 94 is the year of the Visitor. And in this Chaos Agenda, this mega story that we're doing this summer, we'll get our first glimpse of the Visitor. The Visitor is a very unique character to the Valiant universe. First of all, he's the first Valiant character, well, I don't want to say first Valiant character, but the first major character to wear a cape. and there's a good reason for it.
Why is that important in the Valiant universe?
Well, because the capes are stupid, generally, I mean, do you know anyone who wears a cape?
Can't think
You know
of
anyone
anybody
sane
offhand.
who wears a cape, I mean.
No.
Exactly. I don't know anyone who wears a cape, or any reason why they would wear a cape, They generally there should be a reason why somebody wears a cape, Anyway, the Visitor's a very fascinating character. I think people are going to be really knocked for a loop when he appears. Do I have my Visitor logo here? It's like, I know I moved here. Sorry about that. It's like because I can tease him with my Visitor logo. Yes, remember that 94 is the year of the Visitor. It's going to be very exciting. On top of that, we have Time Walker. I know it was delayed for a little bit because, again, Paul, it's like how I am. It's like, unless it's absolutely the best it can possibly be, it's like I won't do it. In the case of Time Walker, I just felt like it just didn't feel right to me. You know what I mean? It's like we got a great character with Ivar here and a terrific premise, but, it just didn't hook, And so it was my decision to delay that book, to sit down with the creative teams and really kind of like hash it out some more, Because, I won't put a book out unless it's absolutely the best, I feel the best it can be. So Time Walker we will launch Time Walker in August. It'll be written by Bob Hall, the guy who's given you Shadow Man. It was terrific, terrific stuff, one of my favorite Valiant comics. It'll be penciled by Don Perlin, one of the finest storytellers in the industry, a 40-year veteran and a current penciler of Bloodshot, and inked by Gonzalo Mayo. Who I think is a tremendous illustrator.
Secret Weapons is so top secret, I'm afraid Bob Layton may come in here and shoot me if I say too much about it. But I have seen the character designs for it that George has come up with. The characters are very, very exciting. This should be a #1 issue. It's number 11, so it's a double one, and it's twice as much fun as a regular #1 comic book. Nobody's ever going to see it. Nobody out there, other than anybody here in the Valiant offices, are going to see this until the day that book ships and goes into the comic stores. Nobody is going to see who those new characters are. So the day it ships, make sure you're in there, pick up that copy, crack open the envelope, and take a look at some of the most exciting new characters that have ever come out of Valiant.
We have Star Watchers coming up in May. It's a tremendous book. It's basically the feature hardcore. We'll see them first appear this March in Magnus. But in the regular series, this is a real feather in my cap, for me, because the book's written by Tony Bedard and penciled by Mike Leake, but its regular inker is Dick Giordano, my old mentor, who's here at Valiant working on a regular series, and to me that's just like the best sort of dream come true I can imagine, to have him here with me, on the same team. It's because all the years we've been together, we never worked on the same team, really, So it's like, it's a culmination of a little dream for me.
Right now we have 2 licensors. We license apparel and jewelry to Planet Studios, and we have a card license with Upper Deck. Upper Deck we really treat as a partner in the business with us. We have a card set that I'm very, very excited about. It's a card set that Chaz Fitzhugh and myself have put together and designed. It's called the Valiant Files, And what it is it's a who's who of the Valiant universe as seen through the eyes of Toyo Harada from the Harbinger book. So what this is it's going to be a series of cards. It's a whole unique way of collecting cards. No more 9-card binders for this. This will all be a way in which to collect the cards into a little file box. It'll have all the kinds of secret information on all the different Valiant characters, and it'll be a great compendium to what we're doing in the Valiant comic books. I think every strong Valiant fan is going to want a set of these. The Chaos Agenda. Now that's another big project that's coming up this summer. Again, I can't say too much about it. But believe me, it's something that I think is a natural segue out of Unity. In fact, what it will do is it's a storyline that will answer a lot of questions that were left over from Unity. And this is going to be a very big project that we're going to be working on this summer. We've got some big names involved in it, and I think, again, it's going to add another texture or another layer to the saga of the Valiant universe.
We're celebrating our 3rd anniversary now, and you know, after 3 years, we've gotten this far. Where do you see us in 5 years?
Celebrating our 8th anniversary, I think, is probably the plan. I think that we'll be a part of a much larger company in terms of Voyager Communications, the parent company of Valiant. I think will be much more diverse in terms of its being an entertainment company. I mean, there's a lot of us here that have interest in film, in animation, and various things, and I think that there's every bit the potential for us to explore that kind of thing.
In 5 years, Valiant will be a fully realized universe. It'll be complete with the number of titles that we're going to put out in it. Where I see Voyager is another situation, another question. Voyager intends to be a multi-level entertainment company. As many of you know, I come out of the record business and out of managing talent. It's my dream and goal for Voyager that we do records and television and film and video games and really be a part of the interactive generation.
Our goal is to make it an entertainment company, not just a comic book company. I see us with a series of successful films based on our characters. I see us branching out into the games and toys and things of that nature. I see this as an entity, something that will continue to grow and branch out into areas that haven't been touched in terms of comics, media, that sort of thing.
Our goals for Valiant is to be a media entertainment company. You know, we want to have, in 5 years, we want to have cartoons. I want to have adult cartoons. We want to have a nice toy line. We want to have video games. We want to have virtual reality. We want to have solar video parks. You know, we want to do everything. We want to be on the cutting edge of entertainment.